Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back. We're East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a special guest today. Some of you may know him as Billy the Ultra Beast, but Billy Richards. And Billy was one of the three gentlemen back in, I believe, 2019 that was going for the most 100 miles in a year record. And what was interesting about Billy, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we tell his story, but what was really cool was Billy ran almost every race with an American flag, which is just pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So Billy, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
All right, so my name is Billy Richards. I actually got into working out when I was 13. I started out as like a gym rat and everything, and I got more or less to like prepare for the military. I always did like your type stuff and everything like that. And one of the things that inspired me to like get into working out was, like I would see like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and stuff like that, and then, I also got as a kid, so as a way to kind of counteract that, I just, originally I just wanted to be like the biggest, like baddest person out there, so nobody messed with me anymore. So, my strength started to skyrocket. Like I started as a freshman in high school, but once I got to my junior, senior year, I started to put on a lot of muscle mass. So I went from being picked on to people just not talking to me, and at the time I was okay with that. But my senior, like after I graduated high school, I didn't really have that much of a name or direction. So I was thinking about going to the military. So when I went to the recruiters and everything, I figured if I'm gonna go in the military and I got to go through boot camp, I might as well just do the hardest one. So I picked the Marine Corps, and it was leading into going into the military where I actually like got into running and stuff like that though, because we had to do it to train. And so I was in the Marine Corps first, and then I got out for a little while. I was a personal trainer in between. And then when I went back to the military, I went back into the Army to attempt Special Forces. I mean, I didn't make it all the way through the program, but the intent was to go Special Forces. I ended up finishing up with the 82nd Airborne. But while I was in the Special Forces course, a bunch of my friends, we were in between training phases. So like, you would do selection, then you'd have like a little bit of downtime, and then you would go to your next phase of training, have a little bit of downtime, so on and so on. So in between selection and CLT, a bunch of my friends did the Army birthday 10 miler. So I just figured, it would be something cool to do and everything. And I went and did it. And, I had a blast doing it. And after I got to the language phase of training, like the language phase of training was like really relaxed. You pretty much just go to school and learn a foreign language. I figured I'd start getting into running races again, but I had one friend that I was going with. So the next one I did was a 10K, and then I shot straight from a 10K to a marathon. And when I was doing this marathon, we had because we have like fitness assessments and everything. So we had a 12-mile road march that got canceled and rescheduled to the Monday after the marathon. So my friend bailed out on the marathon because he wanted to do good in the course. And I decided just to go ahead and do it. So I ended up, it's still my PR time. I did like 3:33. I was never like super fast or anything, but I did the marathon in 3:33. And then I came back the next day and I did the ruck march in 2:15. We had like a 3-hour time limit, so I still got it done. And at that point, I actually got yelled at by the cadre because when we were weighing our packs in to make sure that we were carrying the appropriate amount of weight, one of my friends went to me and says, he's like, "Damn, dude, didn't you just run a marathon yesterday?" So the cadre overhears him, and he's like, "Wait, a half or a full?" So I go, "Oh, a full, sergeant," like proud of myself and everything, and he just ripped me to pieces. He's like, well, what if you went down as a heat casualty? What if this? What if that? He's like, you know what? Don't even do push-ups. Just go stand over there. You'll probably enjoy it too much. So probably the first person to ever get yelled at for that. But while I was in the course, I did 7 marathons. So I started out like more like a road runner. I didn't really do too much trail stuff right away. And then
Mhm.
after I got at this is like 2010, 2011. So I got out of the military in 2012. I had like some issues with depression and everything, and I didn't really have like an objective. I was going to school, and I went back to personal training. I picked up some clients here and there, but then beginning of 2013, I decided to start doing like athletic events again, just to kind of like give me something to do. Like
Mhm.
to give me like another goal and everything. And I started out with a half marathon. I did some CrossFit competitions, like some stuff like that, and then I stumbled on Spartan. And Spartan's pretty much like a trail. It's like doing a trail race, only there's obstacles in there. So there are a lot of similarities to like the ultra, you know, like
Yeah.
trail running and everything. But through Spartan, like that year, I just started doing stuff every weekend, and it kind of like filled the void and like gave me like a purpose again. And I pretty much I didn't do just Spartan. I went out and did like a little bit of everything. But I got through 2013, and then 2014 I came up with the idea to like show people like the struggle that we go through as veterans and everything. And I started carrying a 45-pound pack with every event I did. And then 2015 I added the American flag as a patriotic gesture, and I've
Mhm.
been running with that ever since. And as far as the ultra stuff goes, towards the end of 2014, I was still doing like mostly obstacle races and stuff like that with some road stuff. I carried the flag and everything. Well, one of my friends convinced me to do the death race, which the death race is, like they give you a rough idea, but you don't know when it starts, you don't know when it's over. It's more like an adventure race type thing and everything, where they just give you a whole bunch of tasks and stuff like that. But I did the team version, so there's like 4 of us on the team, and I was like scared out of my mind going into this, and then we ended up winning the race. And through the death race, I met like a lot more like extreme athletes. Like Chris Rice was my team leader, and he was more of an ultra runner and everything like that. But it kind of opened doors and showed me that there was more than just like I didn't even know what ultra marathons or anything were. And
Mhm.
beginning of 2015, um, pretty much got back heavy in the weight training, but I had an injury where I ruptured my tricep tendon,
Mm.
and I couldn't really lift. It took me about like 6 months or so before I was able to lift weights again. So I had a group of friends. It was supposed to be a relay, but we all did it individually because they had the option to run the whole thing by yourself. But there was a local 70K, so we all decided to go out and run that, and that was my very first ultra marathon. And I had no idea what I was getting into. There was no snow on the forecast, but magically there was 4 inches on the ground when we got there. And then I brought a camelback with me, and I had a pack, but it wasn't like weighed out like I normally did. Like I stuffed a bunch of Red Bulls and stuff like that for caffeine because I didn't know what I was doing. And the first aid station was like 10 miles away. Because that was like the first leg of it, because it was supposed to be a relay, but we ended up doing the whole thing by ourselves. And going into that, my camelback tube froze because it was like 20 degrees outside, and I
Mm.
had no water. So I hydrated with Red Bull. I had no idea what I was doing. I got to like the 10-mile point, and I'm like, I'm so thirsty. But, ended up getting through that. And then I shot straight from a 70K up to a 50 miler. And then I did like another 50K. And then my fourth ultra, one of my friends convinced me to do the Beast of Burden 100. So, I pretty much went into that with like, I had no idea what I was doing. And, we went up there, and I pretty much like, I pretty much that's the only 100 miler I ran without the flag because, like in the beginning, I was kind of scared about it because I had already started running with the flag.
Yeah.
But I went into it, and I just, I felt great the first 50 miles. So I got through the first 50 miles in 10 hours and 2 minutes. but I ended up finishing the race in 29 hours and 25 minutes because the second half just went to hell. Like, all right, so after mile 50, I sat down, I ate some pizza, and then when I got up, I couldn't really run that much anymore, so I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. I got to the 75-mile point, and it was like 90 something degrees out, but I was laying on the floor shivering. And like I almost dropped, but the race director's like, "All right, I'll give you a set of sweats. We'll help you out, and we'll get you on your feet, and then you're on your own." So I got to about mile 93, and I'm like seeing stars and everything though. So they're putting ice on my back, all this other stuff, and I was about to drop out, but I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, I got plenty of time here. I'm just gonna put one foot in front of the other. And with the beast of burden though, there's when you're about 2 miles out, because you have to cross a drawbridge, like a mile down the road, you can see the finish line on the other side of the canal. So my GPS had already died, but it took me like an hour to get like the last 2 miles in because my legs shut down completely. My left hip flexor was like the size of a softball, and I couldn't accept weight on my right foot. So I kind of like had my legs locked, and I was like walking on stilts. But I crossed the finish line, and I sat down for a little bit, ate some food and everything, and they told me there were showers in the bathroom and everything. So I go to get up, and like my brain just couldn't locate my legs.
Ooh.
So they go to stand me up, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody like put knives in them and like ripped them open. And I'm from Long Island. This race is up in like near the Buffalo area, and luckily my friends drove, so they threw me in the back of the car, drove me back home, and they when I got to my car, I drove to my driveway, and then I couldn't get out of the car. So I ended up throwing up a post on Facebook. Whoever's around to take me to the VA hospital. One of my friends took me over there, and it turned out I had like a mild case of rhabdomyolysis. So I ended up spending like 3 days in the hospital after that. Like I swore to God I would never do another 100 miler again. And then the following year I went out and did the same race. The next time I went in there with more of a strategy though. So I'm like, all right, somebody told me to like do run, rest ratios and everything. Because the first time I did, I just kind of straight up ran the first 50, But this time around, I did like a mile run, minute walk, as long as I could, and then I got to the halfway point, then I reassessed. And the dangerous part about that race is it's completely flat. Like the completely flat ones, I find are the ones that jack you up the most because you're using the same muscles over and over again. You may get the faster finish times, but with those races, even though the finish time's faster, you end up. Those are the ones I find where your knees are like the size of softballs, and
Yeah,
But,
that repetitive, it starts wearing you down.
Yeah, but that time, I brought the flag out and everything. I got through it no problem. And then this was 2015. So like before I went to attempt this record for the most 100s in a year, I really didn't have that much of an ultra background. Like 2015 was when I ran my first one. And I think Walter had been going a little bit longer than me. I think he started like 2012, something like that, with the ultras. Yeah, so I had 10 100-mile finishes going into the year. And I actually got inspired to do this because I was doing the Savage 7 series. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No.
It's the year I did it, they upgraded it to 50Ks, but it's like at the end of the year. So between Christmas and New Year's, you do 750Ks in 7 days. And, I attached a fundraiser to it, and I ran with the flag, and, I raised money for like, for this organization called Boots on the Ground. But while I was doing the Savage 7, it was about the time where David Goggins' book came out. So after each race, I would go back to the hotel and I would listen. I just listened to like his audiobook like almost straight through. So each day I would listen. I listened to as much as I could before I fell asleep. And then he always put it out there like how he was like this guy that created himself, and he went out and chased all these pull-up world records and everything. So I started to think to myself, I'm like, I'm like a regular dude that's going out and doing this stuff. Why don't I try to chase a world record? So, like I got better and better at recovering at these things. So I was like, all right, well, I've done all these streaks. I did a streak earlier that year where I did 8 ultras in a marathon in 9 consecutive days. And then I had another streak the year before that where I did 4 marathons in 4 days, but I carried a 45-pound pack when I did it.
Wow.
So, like, I started to think to myself, I'm like, all right, what kind of world record can I do? And then I was like, all right, I wonder what the world record is for the most 100 milers in a year. So I Googled it and I came across Ed Ettinghausen, who did 41. And I looked up all these races and everything, and I was like, wait, there's a lot on the schedule. There's almost one every weekend. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I'll never be able to afford to do this. I was pretty much broke going into that year. But a couple weeks in, I figured I'm like, all right, I'll do 100-mile race every month. Just because I've always been one of the guys that would like try to like test the limits. So I started off with the Frozen Hellhole 100, which is down in South Carolina, and I ended up winning the race.
Oh,
So, and part of the reason I won it though is because there was a rainstorm at 1 a.m. and everyone dropped. Or like, well, dropped. It was cold, but
but you did.
no, I just kept going because like something tripped in my mind after hearing about his story where like I think I went like about 18 100s in a row before I DNF'd. Whereas
Oh, wow.
like in the beginning I was kind of like I was almost at the 50-50 mark, like, but where was I? So I did that, and then I got a last minute deal for a flight down to Orlando the following weekend for the Skydive Ultra. So the weekend after I won the race, I ended up getting a 100-mile PR. So I was like, all right, that's cool. And then again, I was finding all these last minute flights somehow. So then the following weekend after that, I did the Rocky Raccoon, and I'll put it this way: I destroyed the first. I was on pace to set another PR because I think I got through. I don't remember the exact time. I think I got through. I got to the 75-mile point at like 16 or 17 hours. So I was like smoking it, and then I hit the tree root from hell, and it just out. And then I fell asleep at an aid station for like an hour, but I still finished it in like 25 hours, so I still got through it.
Yeah.
But I went from like just feeling awesome and dominating it to like, all right, I'm gonna take it easy this last lap so I can finish. And then the fourth one I did was the Lone Star 100, and the Lone Star 100 is at it's at the southern tip of the Rockies in the Franklin Mountains. And
Okay.
I picked that race because I wanted to do the Hellbender, and I needed a qualifier. So I ended up doing that race, and it was one of those races where like at the bottom level it was like about 80 degrees out, but at the top of the summit it was below freezing. So to give you an idea, there was like a 3.5 mile climb to get to the top, and you had to do 3 laps around it. But after I got through that race, it was 4 weekends in a row at that point. I'm like, wait a minute. I started to reflect back on that goal I had about the most 100s in the year, and I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. I think I might be able to do this. So I threw like a GoFundMe together. I started like fundraising and stuff like that, and I finished my first 6 in a row, and then I had a week off, and then I did number 7. I think was the Antelope Canyon one, and then there was something else I did the week after that, and then number 8 was I think 8 was Lake Martin, but the Lake Martin 100, I was starting this long stretch, and coincidentally, I found I found an event where David Goggins was speaking, and
Yep.
I looked into all his stuff, and the most he ever did weekends in a row wise was like 8 weekends in a row. So we're out there like waiting to get in, and he comes out and starts talking to people. And this was actually pretty cool of him too, though, because it was raining and everything. So he's going taking pictures of people in line. So security goes to me and this other guy. He's like, yeah, well, he's got to go back inside soon. You get a chance to get a photo later. Well, David Goggins overheard him, and he just goes, he's like, wait, what? He's like, hell no! All these people are out here in the rain waiting to see me. I'm gonna make sure I take a picture with each and every one of them. You guys are on my time. You don't tell me when I'm going back inside or whatever. And he was literally running around the parking lot like taking pictures with people, even
Oh,
people
that's
that are waiting to
pretty
see
cool.
him. Like, yeah, he was pretty cool like that. But I took my picture with him, and I go to him. I'm like, yeah, your streak of 8 100s in a row. I told him, I'm like, I'm about to break that. And he didn't talk shit. He didn't do anything. He's like, that's awesome, man. Get after it. Go get it. So, it was it was pretty cool. That time I ended up doing 8 in a row, and the 8th one was the Bloodroot Ultra. So this is my 15th one of the year at that point. So
Oh
the
wow.
Bloodroot Ultra, I hit this. It was like a 30 or 40-degree downgrade where you all of a sudden had to throw the brakes so you didn't face plant into a creek. And
Mhm.
like around mile 80, I felt something pop in my shin. So I hobbled the remaining 20 miles in, and I won the race. There was only 2 of us that finished, but
Mm.
the following weekend I had the Keys 100, and my shin was all jacked up. I had a physical therapist that was sponsoring me.
Mhm.
So like I had him KT tape it all up, and like I just had my fingers crossed. I mean, it just hurt to walk on it. It felt like both my shin bones were kind of like twisting when I was walking on it. But so I go out to
Did
do
you
the
end up
key.
breaking that?
What's that?
Did you end up breaking the shin bone?
Oh no, I just had like a very bad shin splint. I think I tore like my
Okay.
anterior tibialis or something, but eventually I got back out there. But so I went out to do the Keys 100. By the time I got to mile 65, like I couldn't go more than like a quarter mile without keeling over. So I ended up having to pull from the race. But I DNF'd that one, and then I was supposed to do Iowa Backroads Ultra the following weekend, and I pulled out of that one just to give it a week to rest. And then my next race was Infinitus. So Infinitus has the Infinitus. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Infinitus. They have the 888K,
Mm-mm.
but they have the 100-mile distance there too, and they have a very long cutoff. They gave you like 48 hours. So and the race isn't that difficult compared to some of them I've done with like faster cutoffs. So I kind of used that one just as kind of like a recovery 100, so to speak. So like every lap, it was a weird setup because you had a 21-mile loop and then you had a 7-mile loop, and
Mm.
you just alternated loops until you finished 100 miles. And after each loop, I would like sit down for like 2 hours. Like halfway through, I took like a 5 hour nap. And I ended up finishing the race in like 39 hours. So I like really took my time with it, but it allowed me to recover. And then the weekend after that, I had the Eagle Up Ultra, which is a 24-hour race. And at this point, my shin's still bothering me, but I ended up getting contacted, by a writer from the American Legion magazine, and he's like, "Hey, we want to interview you and everything. What's your next race?" So I told him, and so they put the pressure on me a little bit though, because now with the
Wow.
jack shin, I had to finish in under 24 hours.
Yep.
So I ended up doing it with about 15 minutes to spare, so I ended up finishing it. But after that, I just kept going and going and going, and then the Habanero 100 like almost destroyed me. That was in August of that year. So the Habanero 100, I DNF'd at like mile like 85, and yeah, like it just it was I jacked my feet up, and it was mostly like user error because I should have drained a blister and I didn't. And yeah, and not only that, I was overheating and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, it was just a disaster. And then I ran out of shoes. I ran out of everything. I had like $10 left in my savings account. So
Oh.
like I threw up a post on Facebook. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So then a member of this Marine Ultra running group caught it. And he's like, "What's your fundraiser link?" So I sent it to him. So he goes into the Marine Ultra running group and he's like, "I don't care what you give this guy, give him something." So within a day, I had about $10,000 and like about 9 sets of shoes sent to me.
Oh, that's
So
how
yeah,
supportive
That
is
is.
like the amount of support I got was just like incredible. Like I was like extremely grateful for it. And at that point, I was already starting to like feel signs of the hip injury too. So I mean, to
Mm.
be honest, I was kind of looking for an out. But once I got all that like money donated, I ended up finishing my next 12 in a row, so I just obliterated what David Goggins did because his best was 8. And then the 13th in a row, which would have been number 36 for the year, was the Sadler's Creek Stumble. By the time I got to that one, my hip was so jacked up, I like stumbled off the starting line, and I hobbled through the first lap, and I'm like, I can't even like I could barely put weight on it. And then that's pretty much like where I finished. But like and I'm still, I mean, for the most part, it's just mainly my right hip that got destroyed. Like, I don't have any cartilage left in it. I mean, I just, I don't know if you saw my post on Instagram with the x-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing there. It's just white.
Is that the same X-ray that you took a couple years ago, or is
That
that the
x-ray is from last year.
okay?
And then last year, with my hip in that condition, I set a record for the most trifectas in a year through Spartan, like, for a male.
Yeah.
This there's a lady Yara. She's got the actual world record though, but I got the I got the most for men.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did all that on a jacked up hip. I like hobbled through like all of them, and that was last year I was motivated because my mom passed at the end of 2022, so I wanted to do like a final like tribute like send off. I wanted to like do something like world level again just as a tribute. So like it didn't matter how much pain I was in, like I was getting through that. Like there were a few races where like the one in Misano, for example, in Italy. So like what a Spartan trifecta is they have 3 distance classifications. You have your sprint, your super, and your beast. So your beast is like a half marathon obstacle race. Your super is a 10K, and your sprint's a 5K. Now that's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So there's been some beasts where they've been 17 miles. There's been some sprints where they've been 6, even though they're supposed to be like 3. And so and then they're usually in mountains at ski resorts, and like they're ridiculous. The amount of climbing's ridiculous. Like the one in Kaprun in Austria, for example, there was like 7,000 feet of climbing or something like that, and there were only 2 climbs. So the first 5 miles went straight to the top, like at like a 30-40% grade. And then you went back down to the bottom, and then you went straight back to the top again. So
how many trifectas was the record? Like how many did you have?
The most for a male was 31. I got 32. And Yara hit like 40, so like she,
So you were doing those like all weekend, right? Like you would do all 3 in a weekend. I know that's how most people try to do them. So
yeah, I mean back, they just started doing that a couple years back though, because like I remember like 2018, I did like trifecta chasing like the year before. I went for the 100 milers, and I had to pull off some crazy stuff. Like there was one weekend where they also have their ultra distance, which counts as a beast. So their ultra is a 50K. So there was one weekend where I live in New York, so like I had I couldn't find like a 3-way flight, so I ended up driving 26 hours to Texas. I won the ultra, and then I hopped in my car, drove overnight to Atlanta, did the super. I actually almost fell asleep a few times, and I got pulled over. They tried to accuse me of being drunk, but then when I told him the story, he's like, "You're not drunk. You're just stupid." He's like, "Just find a place to pull over if you need the rest." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But yeah, so over like a 4-day weekend, I went from New York to Texas to Atlanta, and then I stopped at my mom's in North Carolina to get a little rest, and then I was back to work Monday morning. I had a 4 a.m. client. And I got to the gym parking lot by 3:45. So I've had a lot of weekends like that. And
Yeah.
even with all those 100s, I was still working a full-time job. I was still training people full time. So like every weekend was the same. Like I would lighten up my schedule like on Friday so I can get an earlier flight. But I would fly out Friday, do the race over the weekend. I would cross the finish line, drop the rental car right back off at the airport, hop on a plane. I'd be back home by like 2 a.m. like late Sunday night, and then I would just try to salvage an hour or 2 of sleep, and then I would be back at the gym Monday morning training people.
Yeah, you don't realize how much it actually costs to do, like, try to go after that. Or at least I didn't know till I was talking to Walt. And that
Yeah.
was one of the questions
It
that
was.
one of the listeners asked. They were like, how much did you spend on, trying to do your 100-mile record? And I know Walt said that it was well over 30 grand is what he spent.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm sure you're probably close to that too, just by the time.
I budgeted really well. Like, well, by budget I mean like I depended heavily on the aid stations,
Yeah.
and anything that was within like 12, 13 hours I drove to,
hmm
because I had a few of them. Like, yeah, I think let me see, which one was it? I know Burning River, I had a lot of trouble getting home. I had to pull over quite a bit, and then also too, like from the Frozen Hellhole 100, I drove back from that, and then that was South Carolina. So I think I had like I lost count of how many monsters I drank just to try to keep myself awake.
Well, and trying to get out of the car after driving that much and running 100 mile, that's hard too.
Oh, it was brutal. I mean, after a while, you're just like walking on stilts. You're just kind of like walking over your legs.
Are you originally from New York or are you from North Carolina?
Not from New York. Yeah, I was born on Long Island. I was stationed in North Carolina twice. I was in Lejeune when I was in the Marines, and I was in Bragg when I was in the Army. And then after I got out of the Marine Corps, I came back to New York, and then my mom's side of the family went and split and moved down to North Carolina. So we kind of like flip flopped.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm originally from New York, so.
You've got a couple of races on here that me and Matt are familiar with. We've done this one a couple of times, but the Georgia Jewel 100.
Yep, I saw that one on there.
Looks
Yeah,
like you ran it.
Yeah, Georgia Jewel's a good race. I like that one. I did the well, like Walt and I were the only two that did the entire Pinhoti Slam that year.
Yep.
Yeah, so we did the I think it was the double tap 100, Georgia Jewel, and then Pinhoti.
Yeah, Pinhoti. I'm going to do Pinhoti this year. I've never ran it, so.
Yeah, Pinhoti's a point to point. So like you park your car at the finish line and then you take a bus like 2 or 3 hours to the starting line. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh, just
It
run
looks
back
like
to your car.
you did Blood Rock, or I guess attempted Blood Rock 100. Did you drop to the 55K, or did you originally do that?
This was goal because 2021 I was set that I thought I was gonna have surgery that year, so like August I requested an MRI and everything because I was gonna go under the knife, and then so they got me an MRI date for like September 13th. Well, the September 11th weekend, they had the Killington race for Spartan, and Killington Spartan's hardest U.S. race. Like it's, if you've ever been to Mount Killington, it's just like super steep and like it's a double black diamond slope. Like there's like 8,000 feet of gain over 13 miles. Like it's ridiculous. But so I decided I'm like, all right, well I have my MRI on the 13th anyway. The race is on the 11th. If I do any damage, it's gonna get picked up on the MRI, so I might as well just go for it. And I couldn't really run, so the only training I was doing was the Stairmaster. And I just went out and I just casually walked it. Like everyone else was like dropping like flies on the climbs, and I just cruised through it. So after I cruised through it, I'm like, you know what? I think I could do this stuff again. And then so I put the surgery off a little bit, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have gotten it done back then. But after maybe about a month or two, all of a sudden, like maybe like a month. So all of a sudden, like by mid-October, I was able to run again. Like just from constantly doing the Stairmaster and stuff like that, though, it kind of loosened everything back up.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, since I was able to run again, I was like, all right, well, let me go try Blood Rock. Blood Rock's a mountain race. I figure I could hike most of it. It had the extended cutoff and everything. And have you done Blood Rock or? So I forget which one's first or whatever, but there was like an east and a west loop. So I got done with the first loop and my entire back locked up, like hip, everything, like just I pretty much could barely walk. So I go to sit down, I go to drop out of the race, and the race director comes up to me. He's like, we could just reclassify you as a 55K if you want to keep going. I'm like, shut up. So he goes to me, he's like, wait, so are you still gonna drop? I'm like, no. Like I want to, but I can't. So being that he said that, and he's like, yeah, the other half's easier or whatever, but yeah, I loosened back up a little bit and I got through it. I mean, to be honest, I wish I would have kept going and maybe tried to I wouldn't have made the 100 though because my back was like too jacked up. I might have like inched away and got the 50 miler. But yeah, with all that impact on the, because with a 100 miler, if you got something wrong with you, it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like no way around it. Like it's, and I wasn't. It would have been a different story. Like if I was still going for like a record or something, I would have gutted it out and got through it. Because I mean, like every weekend that year, like my body would almost shut down. Like at some point during the night, I'd be like running and projectile vomiting at the same time. Like
Ooh.
doing those things every weekend was just brutal. Like I don't
Yeah,
even
so
know. No, go ahead. I'm
what
sorry.
what did you do between the races? Like when you did 12 in a row, what were you doing? Like were you trying to do some like small recovery runs, or was you focused more on like mobility and trying to just get loosened up?
I was sponsored by a physical therapist, so I went there twice a week.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, and I did some light upper body work because I still needed to like maintain a certain look as a trainer. But like like the muscle just wasted away because when you do those kind of distances, you can't keep your muscle mass.
Right.
Like
Definitely.
I didn't realize like how much I wasted away, but I actually looked at some of the older articles I was in, like New York Post put out an article about me, and I looked at the picture from that. I'm like, man, I was like super skinny. I almost looked like I was sickly, you know. But yeah, like a lot of muscle wasting. I just tried to do whatever I could to hold on to whatever I could. So I just worked mostly like upper body stuff during the week, and then my lower body stuff was just pretty much just going and getting deep tissue therapy. But after a while, like my physical therapist would go to me. He's like, dude, I can't even do anything for you. You're just too inflamed. There's like, like me doing deep tissue is probably just going to destroy you more.
Yeah.
Because he would do like the blading and the cupping and stuff like that. But after a while, it just got beyond repair.
Yeah.
Like the first 15 of them, like before I hurt my shin on that Bloodwood Ultra, like I felt invincible. Like I was recovering in a matter of days. It was just insane. But then after a while, like it just started to beat down on me too much to the point where it was like beyond repair. So
Yeah.
Well, eventually your body is just like,
What are we doing?
Nope.
oh yeah, well, it takes most people like months to recover from 100 miler, and like I was doing them every weekend.
Yeah.
Because I even had like over that little 10-month stretch, because I also did the Badwater 52.4, and I did that mainly so I can get in the adventure course system because I wanted to do Badwater the following year. Which I actually got accepted into it in 2020, but like, I got shut down because of the pandemic, but realistically it wasn't happening though, because with the hip the way it was, there was no way I was going to be able to do 135 miles on pavement. Like it just wasn't happening. Like I didn't, like when I stopped with the 100 milers, the main reason why I stopped that year too is because I did the math. And at that point, Walter had already hit 42, so he already broke the record. So I did the math and like I didn't have enough weekends left in the year to catch him. And he was just like a steamroller. So like the best I could have did was hit 41 at that point. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the rest of the year off, recover, and then I'm going to come back like the following year and try to take whatever he's got. But I didn't know that like how permanent the damage was. And to tell you the truth, if I could have went back in time, I just would have finished the entire year.
Yeah.
It was done anyway, so it's like might as well just shoot for at least like 40 or whatever I could get.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever met Ed, the guy that had the original record, the Jester. He's an awesome dude too. I ran a race with him a few years ago in Maryville, and he's just a cool, laid back guy. He told me then, he was like, "I'm going to go back again." He's like, "I'm going to try to get the record." So I think he still wants to try to break the record now, which I think is really cool.
No,
I think someone go after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, I'm supposed to get my hip replaced in April. I don't know like how much I'll be able to do with that because I mean it's not like a real joint. So,
Yeah.
but I still have like high ambitions. Like I still want to like do stuff like get the 200-mile Triple Crown and like
Ooh.
like training, I still want to do that World Marathon Challenge. That I don't know how I'm going to raise the money for, because I think that's like $42,000 or something like that. Like, I don't
Ooh, wow.
have anywhere near that in my bank account at the moment. So, but
Yeah,
What is the World Marathon Challenge?
7 marathons, 7 continents in 7 days. Like, they charter a jet for you and everything. You start in Antarctica, and then like you just hit like continent to continent, and then it ends in like Miami or something like that.
Oh,
wow, that's pretty
But
cool.
yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, I did a lot of the international stuff last year because I was going for that Spartan record.
Yeah.
And that was probably the worst part of it, just like the time zone changes. Because like I had a couple like weekends where like I would literally just fly to Australia for the weekend, do a Spartan race, and like fly back. And
Mm.
that's a little different than going from like coast to coast, because like Australia is like 30 hours of travel time.
Yeah.
You know,
How many out of country Spartans have you done?
well, last year I was in 17 different countries.
Well, that's a good traveling year right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm broke right now, but
that's the difference. Who cares if you're broke, man?
Yeah.
oh,
You're living.
but also too though, I still carried the American flag when I went all over the world. Like, there's been a few places though, like well, I didn't get anything negative out of it though. Everyone thought it was cool. Like all the all the foreigners loved it. Like I made a
Mhm.
lot of friends over in Europe and everything. And there was one time where I kind of like second guessed myself, because usually Spartans are on closed courses, but sometimes with the overseas ones they'll run them right through the towns. And so I'm carrying the flag through the Czech Republic, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, didn't this place used to be like the Soviet Union? But but yeah, no, everybody was cool about it. Nobody said much. I mean, usually like if there's a case like that, I'm not gonna like run through the neighborhood and showboat it. I'll just kind of like roll it and carry it with me, and then
Yeah.
But
How do you deal? So like with ultras and with the trifecta record, I mean, you've obviously build up good endurance, and you've built up, at least the mentality part to deal with the stuff in your mind. But like, how do you, like, when your muscles are breaking down and you can't feel it, how do you figure out how to power through? What works for you?
I mean, I just kind of like flip a switch. Like it's hard to explain. Like especially like with the multi lap stuff. Like some people like struggle with the multi lap stuff because they got to go do the entire course again. Like me,
Mm-hmm.
I just shut it down and get back out as soon as I can. Like I don't even I just eliminate the I just eliminate quitting altogether. Like I can't really explain it. It's almost like I flip a switch where I just whenever I get to an aid station, I just try to do like priorities of work, make sure I'm topped off on water, make sure I grab something to eat, do what I got to do, and then I'm out. I don't like to chill out at aid stations, because I found out too, though, especially like going into the night, like if I sit for more than like 5 to 10 minutes, I start bonking out and like going to sleep. And then
Yeah.
that's when I get back out there and I'm like running in the trees and stuff like that. And I try to stay on my feet even. So like with the 100s, I would usually like have a system, so I would carry, I mean, I used ibuprofen obviously though, because it kind of kept the inflammation at bay. And then I would carry 5-hour energy shots on me, like just in case I needed it. And but usually I would try to run like, I mean, I would take like with the Advil and stuff, I would take like the recommended dosage. I wouldn't overdo it. So I would just take like two like every 5-6 hours, and then I would pop like a 5-hour energy too, just to kind of keep the caffeine circulating. But
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty much like my set standard for that. And then like every 10 miles, I would do like a quick stretch. So I would stretch quads, hamstrings, calves, just whatever I used to run, just to keep it loose and everything. And then that's pretty much how I did it.
That's a pretty good little system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, caffeine in those 100 milers, man, it is a world changer,
Game
Oh yeah.
changer.
But
dude.
well,
Like,
caffeine's got a half life of like 5-6 hours.
yeah,
So like run it every 5-6 hours, it kind of like has a compounding effect. So like most
yeah.
people wait till they're tired though, but like even like right at the beginning of the race, like right when the race starts, I'll pop some Advil and some caffeine like right at the start, and then I'll
Mm,
run it through systematically, and then I don't take it afterwards though. Like also too, like I don't train with ibuprofen or anything like that.
yeah.
Because like I mean, the way I view it with stuff like that is when you're doing a race, everything's on the table. But when you're training, you're not trying to mask anything because you want to see if you're actually hurt.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because if you break yourself during training, there's no point. It's like, what are you proving during training? Nothing.
Yeah.
No.
But when you got an event, when you're shooting for that buckle, it's like, all right, it's all on the line right now. This is what you trained for. So that's just my view.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you're 100% on. I mean, when you're in a race, like,
Yeah.
you want to be gritty, you want to have fight, you want to give everything your best effort so that you don't regret making making a decision tomorrow that when you wake up, like, I should have tried ibuprofen, I should have tried Tylenol, or I should have tried caffeine. I mean, and that's the thing is, like, everybody's different. You find what works for you, and you do. I mean, some people are very sensitive to caffeine.
Well, that's the hardest part about giving. That's the hardest part about giving advice out for these things, though, too. Because people will ask me, like, well, what should I do? Because you have to come up with a system that works for you because everybody's body's different. You know what I'm saying? Like some people. I mean, you have people that are allergic to ibuprofen, though. So what are they going to do? And then you have some people that like have had kidney problems in the past, so they can't take it. And then you have other dudes that they literally chug the whole bottle and wind up in the hospital, and it's like, dude, you can't do that. That's like more's not better. Take just enough to get the intended effect. If you follow the directions on the bottle, usually you're fine.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a pair of shoes. When people ask me or Matt, like, what's your favorite shoes to run in? What do you recommend? I'm like, what works for me isn't going to work for you.
Yeah.
And I still haven't found the right pair of shoes.
Well, me and David both,
that I like, but
we both wear different shoes.
Well, because even on that end too, though, you have a high arch, a flat foot, like a medium arch or whatever. Like there's there's like 3 different types of foot classifications. So what works for me might not work for somebody else.
And then you got Walt, who has a extra wide foot.
So we met Walt this past year because we all done Ball State together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what Ball State is, but it's that 300-mile race across Tennessee, and that's where we met Walt and learned his story. And here's what's crazy is, like, I had followed your story.
Yeah.
When you were doing it, I didn't really follow Walt's. So when we got to talk to Walt, it was like a whole new story and whole new side that we hadn't saw. And that was kind of cool, just knowing that you guys had tried for the same year. I mean,
oh yeah, and it was all sheer coincidence. Like we met Well, I mean, I've known Mike Ortiz for years. I met him, I think, like 2015 or so. Yeah, so I've known Mike Ortiz for a while, but Walter, I met him like 2019. And like we all just
did all 3 of you run a race together somehow? Did you all?
Yeah, well, like we all actually became really good friends though. Like Walt's a really good dude. Walt actually helped me out a few times when I was like short on cash. He actually like sponsored me for a few races too. Just because we were all under that mutual understanding that, like, with this style of record, like any one of us could go down at any time. Just because of like the level behind it. So we all kind of supported each other. And it was the Miami 100. So the Miami 100, it was kind of like an open course. Like they didn't want to get permits for the roads or anything because it's through Miami. So they pretty much gave us the directions to each aid station, and when we got to the next aid station, we get the directions for the next one, and so on and so on. So there was like a navigational component behind it. And going into that race, we all got our own little fan bases, though, so everyone was kind of like, like bickering back and forth or whatever. So the 3 of us got together at the beginning of the race, and we were like, hey, let's run this race together and make sure we all cross the finish line at the same time. And we did. Like,
that's cool.
And we actually went to the race director and we told him to make sure that we all had the same finish time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, but it was cool that, like, we all split responsibilities. So Mike had his friend crewing, so he was the dude that ran out the stores and got his Gatorades and stuff like that. Walter did the navigating, and then I set the pace. So like we kind of divided it in the, our own individual responsibilities and everything, though, because like if the 3 of us didn't stick together, like we probably would have all gotten lost, honestly. because like
Yeah.
because like nothing was marked. You were just and there was the first aid station. We were just running all over the park like looking for it. We're just it's like what's this thing look like? You know,
And
but
that's where Walt got his practice for Vol State.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Walt's a great guy. Now I've not met Michael Ortiz, but Walt's awesome. So hopefully we'll have to have Michael on here at some point too. I'd like to, just I think it'd be cool for us to
yeah,
hear all three sides. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm sure Mike would go on too though. Mike's a really cool guy. So
So of everything that you've done so far, you ran more 100-miler races than most people have in their career, and you
Mhm.
did it in a year. But of everything that you've accomplished so far, what's your greatest accomplishment? What are you most proud of? Is it going after that record? Is it the trifecta record, or is it something else?
there's been a few things though, because like 2016, I kind of did this thing on my own where I ran around the country thanking police officers. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard about that or anything, but
Briefly.
yeah. So there were a bunch of in 2016 there were a bunch of shootings and everything, and it was like at the whole front, like when the police officers were getting trashed all over the place and stuff like that. Shine like a positive light on it. So I came up with the idea to do this thank the police tour. So I went out and I bought like about 40 American flags. I bought a bunch of thank you cards, and then I set up a GoFundMe to raise money to make the trip happen. And I drove around the country for this. I'm not going to say I ran across country, but like I I started in New York. I went as far south as Miami, as far west as San Diego, and then I pretty much just drew a circle on the map and tried to like get to the precincts where there were shootings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I would run around the precinct dressed in blue, carrying a flag, and then when I got done with the run, I would fold the flag up. I would give it to the police along with a handwritten thank you card and a handwritten list of all the people that donated, just to show that the community still supported them.
Mhm.
So when I first started it, I was pretty much like solo. But then by the time I got to by the time I got to Mississippi, like I was having police officers run with me and everything, and then
Mhm.
when I got to Vegas, they shut down like a short little section on the strip, and I got to run with some SWAT team officers and everything, so it was pretty cool. But that was like every day I was going through one or two locations, and I pretty much in 2 weeks I circled the country. And I
Mhm.
think my longest drive was from Las Vegas to Denver. It was like 1,000 miles. But yeah, like every 300 to 600 miles, I was pretty much going to a different precinct. And it got to the point where I had like a couple hundred donors though. So like most nights I would like pre-write out like all these lists, like if I had like a huge like travel thing. So my hands were like cramping up and everything. And this is like right after my bicep tendon rupture too. So I did some of them like in a brace because I didn't have a right arm. But
Yeah.
like but yeah, it was probably the most noble thing I've ever done. Like like I didn't want it to stop. Like when I got to the end of it, and then when I got home, my local precinct, we met up at the headquarters. They got like almost the entire precinct to run with me, and then they gave me an autographed photo of the flag raising of Iwo Jima from the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient, which was pretty cool. But
That's awesome. So did you come up with this by yourself? Like, was it something you just created?
yeah, I pretty much like planned it within like 20 minutes. I drew a circle around the map and played connect the dots. And then to raise the money to get it started, I ran around all the local precincts. And then, I just took like 2 weeks off of work and just made it happen. And
That's really
I kind of learned as I went,
Yeah.
like who to contact and like what to do. Because, the first few, I didn't get anybody. And because I remember Atlanta, the precinct was actually closed. So I was like running around the mall trying to find a police officer to hand the flag to just to get a foot picture, you know.
Uh,
And then when I went to Chicago, I got a bicycle escort, and those guys won't took me like sightseeing for about 16 miles, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I gotta go. But yeah, it was one of the cooler things I've done.
That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
I had briefly heard of that, but I didn't know the details. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And you did that in 2016?
Yeah. Yeah, it was August of 2016. You know, it's, I haven't started yet, but I'm planning on writing a few books about this stuff. Like, because originally I was just going to do a memoir, but then I started to think, like, since I've done like a bunch of crazy different adventures. I mean, obviously the 100-mile one's going to be the first thing I write about.
Yeah.
And then, you know, because I mean, I'm going to do a lot of this when I go down for hip surgery too. You know, I mean, I don't know how long I'll be out for. Some people are saying like a couple of days. Other people are saying I might be out for a few. I don't know, but yeah, that's when I'm gonna start doing that stuff though. So like the 100-mile journey is probably the first one I'm gonna do, and then I figured I would start to thank the police one as the memories came up on Facebook, so it kind of refresh it a little bit. Yeah, because 2016 was a while ago, so like. You know, like when the first couple of years after I did it, I remembered like every vivid little detail, what precinct I stopped at on what days. But now the memories are starting to fade a little bit, so I want to kind of like throw it on paper before, like, you know.
Yeah. That'd be a good book. That'd be really interesting.
Because even though like even with the 100, so like I'm starting to forget some details. I mean, there's certain races that I have key memories on, like the Mogollon Monster, for example. There were people target shooting when we were out on the course. So we're running down the mountain, and all of a sudden I'm like hearing ricochets off the rocks, and I hear high pitched cracks. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting shot at. Yeah, I don't think they were shooting at us. I think they were off in the distance, but they just didn't know there were runners on course.
Sounded like it, didn't it?
I would see the flag flying. And
that'd been sketchy. That'd been real sketchy.
And then, and then I think the only one I had an issue with wildlife too, though. I think it was I forget the name of it. I think it was Shawnee Hills one in Illinois. Like I'm running down the trail and it didn't even look real, but I hear this like hissing, and all of a sudden this raccoon just throws itself at me. It looked like a stuffed animal with teeth, and I kind of leaned back like the Matrix, and it missed me, and then it just scattered off into the woods. But it was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. It just took me by such surprise, you know, because like like I've never really had any issues with wildlife outside of that, outside of just getting like stung by hornets or whatever. But you know,
hornets are fun.
Yeah.
Well, so was a flying.
That
would have been scary. Raccoon flying at you.
Yeah. But it just like it didn't even look real. It looked like a stuffed animal with teeth. It just kind of lunged itself at me, and then it scurried off into the woods.
What do you have any? So you're going to go into. So when's hip surgery?
April 18th.
Okay. Do you have any like goals that you want to do after hip surgery? Do you have something you're going to tackle?
Nothing immediately. I'm probably going to evaluate it. I mean, I'm still going to get out there and do stuff because, like, I mean, right now I've been mostly local. I've still been. I mean, I haven't been able to run, but I've been throwing on a rucksack and like pretty much like hiking like most of the races I've been doing. And then I'm in talks with another.
What's that? Quite a bit of rucking. I said, yeah, I saw your videos. Looks like you've been doing quite a bit of rucking.
Well, I started up a little streak. I'm like today I finished up like day 45. So and then I started adding. You know, originally I was just rucking like 3 miles a day, but then I started adding stipulations. So once I hit number 40, I added a mile. So I figure I'm only once I get the surgery to be the 103-day mark. So I'll probably stop at like 100 days. But every time I hit like another 10 rucks, I'm going to add a mile to it. So when I get to number 100, I'll be at 10 miles. But I also have like some races and stuff planned in between there. So like, well, this weekend's kind of like a gray area though, because I'm supposed to speak at one of my clients' car dealerships. But if that falls through, there's also the Jacksonville Spartan race, which, you know, I was just going to drive to. Mm-hmm. But if I do that speaking thing, there's actually a race the next town over because it's like an 8:30 in the morning type meeting, and there's a race at 10. So I wasn't even going to change. I was just going to go suit and tie and just like do the race, and then shoot to Florida and do a couple laps around the Spartan course, and then shoot back and be back to work by Monday. Like, make an adventure out of it. If anything, it would make the speech more entertaining. Like if I tell you what I'm going to do, but but then also too though, I haven't put it out there yet, but I randomly went to Ultra sign up and I found a few things. So I figure my hip's done anyway. Like, it's and the orthopedic said it wouldn't get any worse. It just is what it is. So I'm gonna do that naked Bavarian race, but I'm doing the 20-mile version because the full distance is a 40-mile. So I'm just gonna ruck the 20. And then I found a few like timed races because I mean I don't have the speed to hit cutoff times, but like if there's a 12-hour race, I'll just ruck it and see like how many miles I can get. So there's a
Yeah.
few I have like planned out like that, and then there's like my goal this year is just not to fly to anything.
Mm.
So like anything within driving distance, I'm gonna try to pick out and do.
Yeah.
But I'm also working on coordinating with a local charity, this group called Operation Vest. So they raise money for counseling services for veterans to kind of help them like battle PTSD and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm still kind of like pushing out there and like still carrying everything. I'm just waiting for them to like get the fundraiser links and everything set up, and then I'm gonna start trying to help them out because I haven't done anything charitable in a little bit though, so I kind of want to start getting into that stuff again.
That'd
So
be good.
because the original I used to help raise money for this group called Boots on the Ground. So they help out struggling veterans, and then every Tuesday night they used to send out care packages to Afghanistan and like Iraq and like places like that where troops were overseas.
Yeah.
But the owner actually moved to Tennessee, believe it or not. So he's down by you
really?
guys. But yeah, but being that he moved to Tennessee, the organization folded because they didn't have any leadership. So and it was right around COVID that all this happened, so they just ended up shutting
Oh
down.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean those are some things I got like planned out right now.
Well, so do you have any more ambition to do more 100-milers in the future if the hip allows it?
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you knew this, but Walt's next goal that he's going for is he's
the
trying to
200
get 100 100s.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's I think that's his goal right now, right?
Well, he did have. I heard a podcast about the 200s, but I think when he was on here, he didn't talk about those. He was talking about getting 100 100s.
Yeah,
Maybe
because I
he's
know he put out on Facebook a while back that he wanted to get the goal. He wanted to break the record for most 200s in a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't
he
know.
said nothing about that.
Those are adding to the 100-mile list.
Wow.
Well, because
$200.
even that year where he got even that year when we were all doing it, he got the 50 100s. He did a couple of those 100s were 200-mile races.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He only counted them as 100s too. It's crazy.
He did the spine, right?
Yeah, he did the spine, and then he Moab 240.
Well, I don't know if the spine was that year, but I know he's done it in the past. But I know like he had a couple of events like across the years where he would do like one of the timed races, and then he would tap out at 100 miles to get the buckle, and then he'd sign back up for the 100-miler and just double buckle the weekend.
Yep.
He had a couple of weekends where he did stuff like that, and I mean that's awesome actually.
Yeah, it's great. So, and I heard you earlier say you had interest in doing the Triple Crown of 200s. So that's pretty awesome too. That's fun.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, the longest race I did was the Lone Star 100, and that's probably because I made it the longest because I missed a couple of turns, so I ended up at like 109 miles on my GPS. But yeah, because
bonus miles, baby.
It's free.
Well, in between the second to last station and the last aid station, the volunteers messed up and cleaned up the course markings too early. So nobody knew where they were going. And then I just happened to, like, remember a turn. Like, I saw a backstop, and I'm like, wait, I think I make a left here. But I'll tell you what, though, like, I went from hobbling to, like, doing, like, a 6-minute mile pace because I was freaking out and panicking because you don't want to make it, like, that far in and, like... I just got like a sudden shot of adrenaline, and I'm like, I've been out here for like 32 hours already. I think that one had a 36-hour cutoff, but it's like I've been out here for 32 hours already. I'm not DNFing. It's like you have to kill me to pull me off the course. I'm like, I'm sprinting back and forth looking for turns, and then I eventually find it because that second to last aid station, you hook a left at this backstop, and then you find your way on a ridge line, and you could see the aid station like over the ridge line and everything. You know, you still have like a couple miles to get to it of like covering the ridge. But once I
Mhm.
made that turn, it's like, all right, I know where I am now. But before that, I was panicking. I must have ran like a couple of miles back and forth, like looking for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when you end up with extra miles like that, you know, like you're like, what is going on? Like Ball State
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
is 314 miles. Me and Matt ended up with like 350 miles
350.
by the time that we stopped at hotels, go somewhere to find food, accidentally run past the road you were supposed
Turn
to
back
turn
around,
down,
go
and
follow it.
run the route back. So
Yeah.
yeah, we had all kinds of bonus miles in that race.
They were all free.
Yeah. Hey, it's just something to brag about later, you know?
Hey, that was my longest distance. It went from like signed up for 314. Like, hey, now I got 350. Like, there we go.
But you're
Yeah.
right though. Like when we would make a wrong turn and we'd have to turn around and run to get back to the right spot, you know, like it would just irritate us, and you would.
Well, your watch is constantly going
Yeah.
beep 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 beep
Yeah.
beep beep.
Yeah.
So it was like you wake up then and you're like, oh, I'm off course, and I got to turn around and run back.
Yep.
You're right. Like that wakes you up, and you're just like, you turn around and you look down and you're like running 8-minute miles, and you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, it was there was one race, the Moose 100. I ended up DNFing it though, but like it was 2 laps, but it was done like washer style, you know, and they marked it for the 50, which went the second direction, but you know, so like you did reverse direction first. And I remember I made like a wrong turn. I ran like about 3 miles out of the way, and then somehow I found my way back on course. And then I remember hitting the top of the mountain, and I couldn't find the markings for anything. Like I'm just running around this open clearing. I'm seeing markings, but then they're just like disappearing. So then like I have no idea where to go, what to do, and all of a sudden I go and I just sit down and kind of look over the horizon because the scenery is awesome. And then I just happen to look down. I'm like, wait, there's a marking down there. Like I never would have seen it, you know, but it was down
Yep.
like this like really steep grade, you know, like it was. But yeah, I mean that race had just turned into like a disaster for me. Like it was, yeah. No, I didn't read too much into it ahead of time, but they had one like ridiculous stretch without any aid stations. It was like 9 miles, and I forget how much elevation. And then apparently I was supposed to bring iodine tabs so I could refill my water in the creek, but I didn't read that part.
Don't worry, we don't read race instructions either.
Yeah, we're not good at
Well,
that.
I was doing so many of them that year. I would just briefly read it. Okay, I would read the type of course. I'd be like, okay, is it a lap? Is it a lollipop? Is it a point to point? Is it out and back? And then once
Yep.
I would just look at the aid stations and I would be like, all right. Well, because also too, I was trying to budget it though, so I pretty much like relied heavily on the aid stations. You know,
Yeah.
'cause I was, yeah, I mean, I lost like I got into like record mode where I stopped like counting money and I was just like, I'm gonna do this no matter what, which is both good and bad. It's good because it's ambitious, but it's also bad because it's like, all right, just put it on the card, put it on the card, put it on the card. I'll just pay
Yep.
I'll just pay it back later because I'm doing something, you know, that very few people can do,
Mhm.
you know. So I mean, it kind of got that way with Spartan this year too, or last year rather. And that one I think cost, believe it or not though, like the Spartan one. I mean, I have their Unbreakable pass, so I don't have to pay race entry fees. I just have to get there.
Mhm.
But that ended up costing more than the 100s because with the 100s, I didn't need a hotel for the entire weekend. I just needed that hotel for like Friday night, for example. And
Yeah.
Yep.
then also like the aid stations were stocked with food, so I was just eating like aid station food. So minus the cost of the race, that's really all I was spending. You know, like I didn't have to front like hotel costs. I didn't have to pay for any food because the races were stocked up with it. I mean, minus like maybe a couple of energy drinks or whatever, but you know, for the most part, like everything was provided at the 100s. So even though the entry fees were on the average like probably about between 2 and 250 each, that's really all I was paying, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then after a while, if you keep booking through the same like, you know, because I would book through hotels.com all the time. And then I mostly use Priceline for the flights, but after a while though, like, you achieve platinum status like so quickly, like all of a sudden you're getting all these like sick deals and everything. I mean, it's not now everything's more expensive, but like I literally had like that well, remember when I told you I had that last minute flight deal to Orlando?
Yep.
I also because I booked a flight through Priceline, I literally got that rental car for like $30 for the entire weekend. So like I was just pulling off all these sick deals and stuff, so it wasn't costing me as much as people thought it was. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much I spent, but it wasn't like horrific.
Well, I mean, anything you can save in an instance like that just helps you helps you later on, because I mean, you're trying to plan that for a whole year, so you're trying to like ration as much as you can.
Well, also too though, like living in New York, I'm right by JFK and like LaGuardia though, so like JFK and LaGuardia are like main hubs. So anytime you get like a main airport like that, like they don't really cost that much to fly out of. I mean, okay, like flying in the Jackson Hole was a little ridiculous. I think that was like $600, but that was the one that like Walter helped me out with. But for the most part, I was between 150 and 200 on the flights.
No,
And
that's better than.
That's not.
yeah,
I think.
like it wasn't like horrific. And then like I had like I was also sponsored by my physical therapist, so he was like treating me in between, at no cost. And then one day he goes to me, he's like, "All right, well, how much is it going to cost you for the entry fees for the remainder of the year?" So I think at that point it was like $7,000 or something like that. He's like, "All right, I'll give you half." So he sponsored me for it, and but yeah, I had like a lot of local businesses sponsoring me, like, so I had a lot of help. Like I did, like I didn't do it like out of like my bank account like completely. But at the same time though, like I'm also the type of person where like I want to be locked in, so sometimes I'll be impatient waiting for sponsors and just pay for it. And then
I mean, you almost have to be.
Yeah.
You've got to get into some of those races and get everything planned. So I mean, there's.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if you're driven to like accomplish something like that, I'm not waiting for somebody. I'll figure a way out. Whether like I'll like I think actually yeah, I did a couple security gigs too. Like I was just like finding stuff. I'd be like, all right, like I had somebody that wanted me to train them at the track like a half hour or so away, and I didn't want to do it because of the distance, so I just threw out a random price, and they're like, okay. So I'm like, oh, great, I guess I'm going out there. But at the same time, that covered a lot of my races too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Did
you train them with the flag?
Oh no, she was actually training for like soccer or whatever, but she had like a fitness test where she had to run a certain amount. I forget.
Yeah, I could see Billy going out there and saying like, if I'm training you, you have to carry the flag.
Carry the flag.
Yep. Should actually start that.
Yeah, I mean that's like your trademark, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I heard talking about the Georgia Jewel. I think Chad Wright from Georgia, he was running it, and he goes, saw this guy, he's carrying his flag. I started talking to him, and
Chad's a cool dude too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran it. I actually got to hang out with him and Jesse Isler at the Hennepin 100 later that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse was pretty much like almost about to go hypothermic, so I let him borrow my jacket for a little while. And then so I ran like a good like 20-30 miles with them. Like they're cool dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I don't remember exactly which race I met Chad Wright at though. He's been at a couple of them that I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he already knew who I was, like with the Georgia Jewel. Because I just remember hearing this guy come out. He's like, yeah, he's a cool dude.
See, I mean, everybody knows the flag. That's like your trademark. So embrace that.
Yeah, and that's it. That's never going away.
Good.
Well, because like actually this weekend coming up, I just did my 598th race with the flag last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like 599 will be Saturday, and then 600 will be Sunday. And I have a couple of if then scenarios. Like I said, if I'm doing that speech, I'm going to do the local one and then shoot down to Florida for the Spartan race. But if I end up not doing that speech, because like the thing about New York is like people flake out on you all the time. But if I'm not doing the speech, I'll end up getting more events because Spartans got the super in the morning, the sprint in the afternoon on Saturday, then they have a sprint on Sunday. And the one thing about Spartan too is they don't count towards trifectas, but they count towards your totals. But like they have everything divided in the heats. So if you're fast enough, you could potentially get like 3 or 4 finishes in the same day, maybe even more.
Oh.
Like as long as you get out there before the last heat goes out.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say there's a wave at 8, a wave at like 10, a wave at 12, a wave at 2, a wave at 4, a wave at 4. I could sign up for all of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they all count. They count as individual races, but they only count as like one towards the trifecta.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like like they, because a lot of those guys that have like 400 or 500 Spartan finishes, that's how they got it. They just did multiple laps in the same day.
Oh, that makes sense.
No,
I didn't realize
I
that.
didn't know you could do that. Hey,
Yeah.
I was ready to be, when I did mine, I was ready to be done with it. I'm like, done with this.
Oh no, but also too though, like with the when you anytime you, I mean they're all season pass holders obviously though, because like when you're a season pass holder, you pay the insurance fee. But like because like if you were a guy that didn't have a season pass, you'd end up paying the whole fee, so it wouldn't be worth it. You'd end up spending like $1,000 in a day, as opposed to like $14 each time you go out there. So and
It's pretty cool, man. That's I didn't realize that you ran that many races with a flag. That's
a lot.
Awesome.
Like I think when I saw it, it was like 500. But
You going to do something special for 600?
I'm not sure. Well, my 500th one was
Too
a Spartan race, and and that one was a disaster to get to because like I had a flight cancellation to Australia, so I had like last minute I had to like throw together a bunch of local races to like get my totals up, and then that weekend too there was a couple of rain delays, so we thought the event was going to get canceled. So like I barely got it in that weekend, and but they gave me a couple like awards and stuff like that though. They made up this like nuts and bolts type figure like on the A-frame holding the flag. They gave that to me, and then they read my bio. They had like a little ceremony for it and everything though, so it was pretty cool. Like Spartan's always been pretty good to me, so
it's good.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, and they know who you are because you're the only dude that's going there with an American flag. I mean, like I said,
yeah. They
everybody
also
flag. They're like, that's Billy.
they also had me do a humanitarian thing in the Ukraine at the end of 2022, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow!
But, we're only there for like the weekend. I mean, we drove a bunch of vehicles down to Kiev, which is like 5 miles from the Russian border, which is pretty interesting. But it was just like a bunch of vehicles and a bunch of supplies, and then it was pretty much like I guess it was more of a publicity stunt or whatever though. But it was pretty cool getting to go there and everything and help out.
Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what else you do next, man, especially after you get the hip fixed. I know you've been dealing with the hip for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You'll feel like a new man when you get that hip replaced. Might take you a few weeks to get used to.
I just can't wait to. I mean, because my pain tolerance is like so high right now. Because I mean, especially even like after last year though, because like I mean, some of those races I was in pain from like mile 1, like. Like usually the foreign ones I'd have a buddy go with me or whatever. And I would almost like keel over. Like it got bad. Especially like with the uneven terrain and stuff like that. Some of them were in the sand, and I wasn't too bad on the mountains. Like I don't know, I guess because of the way the bone spurs are or whatever. Like I don't have any problems doing with the steep climbs. It's more like the downgrades and stuff like that, and like the really technical stuff. So, like my most painful race last year was the one in Florida. It was just like it went on for miles and miles in the swamps. So just all that uneven terrain, and like when I can't see where I'm planting my feet, and I'm like jarring my foot in this stuff though, it just sends a shockwave up and it just like wrecks my hip.
Yeah.
So
You'll feel like a different man then whenever you get that
yeah,
hip replaced.
Yeah. He'll be running 6-minute miles for a
Yeah.
long time.
He'll
Yeah.
Not just looking for
he'll be doing the Triple Crown of 200s while he's trying to do the 100-mile record again.
Yep.
Well, Billy, man, thank you so much for doing this, and we've got some listener questions that we do every time we have a podcast. We always ask the listeners for some questions, and while
Okay.
Matt's the list, it takes him a few minutes. He normally loses this list. And
Instagram. He's got them spread everywhere.
so while he's compiling that list, I'm going to start us off with the first question that we always ask. That's part of this podcast, and that's why do you run? Like, what is the purpose for you, and like, why do you do what you do?
Well, I mean, for me, like I've always been like somebody that's like kind of like to test the limits. I mean, I have like causes linked to the flag and everything though. Like I run, for the I run to honor my friends and everything, and then with the pack, I recently brought the pack back. I retired it back in like 2018 originally, because it was just like I retired it from the obstacle stuff in 2016 because I ripped my bicep on a Tough Mudder. But yeah, I mean, I roll with the pack to kind of to symbolize the struggle, because I still go through like a lot of struggles and stuff like that though too though, because I mean it's not easy, and then like also too like a year about it, when I lost my mom like a year and a half ago, it opened up a lot of old wounds. Like I almost went into like so she died. She passed away like a couple days after her birthday, September of 2022, and that just set me into like a full on like focus with all this stuff. It's like every weekend I had to do something, And at that time, even with my bad hip, I still did like 6 Spartan Ultras that year. So like my foot, like it just kind of like drove me, like what's the word? It set off this like weird drive where it just turned me back into like an unstoppable force, like even with the injuries and everything. But a lot of it, because I mean, like being in the military, I'm still, I still battle demons here and there. It's not as bad as it used to be, but at the same time, they're still there. But
You said your mom is what sparked the trifecta goal,
yeah,
right? Did that to honor her?
yeah, that was the because last year I wasn't even supposed to do anything. I was just gonna like try to recover and everything. And then when she passed, it just set me like it just zoned me, So like I mean, like a death in the family, like it just drives you to like do things that you never thought, because I mean, to tell you, I don't know how I got through that year, like injury wise and everything though, because I mean, the level, well, I mean, you saw the X-ray, the level of pain that comes with that, it's like even now, like just like I go to physical therapy or the chiropractor, I can't lay down with my leg straight for any amount of time, otherwise the nerve just radiates down the leg. And believe it or not, the ruck actually helps it, I guess, because I'm like slightly pitched forward.
Mm-hmm.
But like just what like so I did that. I don't know if you ever heard that 75 hard thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started the year off with that, and like I was just doing walks with it, and just like a 2 mile walk, I was like almost to the ground because it would feel like I was like being punched in my quad when I was walking down the street. So I mean, like one of the reasons why I posted that X-ray too, though, is I just wanted to kind of show people like what I went through doing that. You know, but I mean, outside of that, though, I mean, I've always been like in the fitness and everything. So like, and I've never really went like a specific route. Like, I mean, I started off like more like a gym rat, but after I got out of the Marine Corps, it kind of turned into me, because I always used to do like the bulk ups and cut downs like your typical gym bro. But
Yeah.
anytime I did a cut down, it wasn't really like a traditional, like, I'm just going to get shredded. I went more the endurance route. So, like I've always, like even before I started doing like races and stuff, I would be like, okay, there's a mall about 13 miles away. I'm going to run out there and back just to see if I can do it. So I always used to be like the type of person that did that type of stuff, and then I would keep like stacking challenges and stacking challenges. So naturally, like when I float over into the races and stuff like that, it was kind of like, all right, I found my home.
Yeah.
So
Did you find the list, man?
Yeah, I got a statement before I got questions. This
Oh.
was a guy who actually ran a race with you.
okay,
It said it was amazing to run with him, a 50K Spartan Ultra last year. That guy is a beast, and he respects you. So
no, thank you.
that's one of the guys that runs with us. So,
Yeah.
um,
Did he say
would
what? Did he say which ultra it was, or?
he didn't say which one it was, but he runs a lot of them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't say which one it was though. The first question is, after your hip gets healed, would you go for 100 hundreds?
Oh.
I would say yes. I mean, definitely was a goal of mine
Yeah,
because there's only how many people in the world? Like 19, something like
yeah,
that. That
not many.
no, there's not many at all. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if Mike Ortiz hit it yet or not. I know he was trying for that too.
Well,
But
that would definitely be a great story after doing it, then the hip, and then coming back.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
probably need a couple of.
you can see the look on his face. He's already thought
He's
about
already
this.
thinking. He's like, "Yep." Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, because you can't turn it off, because I mean,
Yeah.
like,
You cannot.
because again,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do anything this year, and then I evaluated at the beginning of the year, and then I saw that I was at 589 races with the flag. So then it started out, okay, I'm just going to do a bunch of 5Ks until I get the 600. And then I managed to stumble on the ultra sign up again. So now I'm looking, and it's like, all right, I got a 20 miler I'm signed up for in a couple weeks.
It's an
12
addiction.
hours, 6.
Ultra,
Yeah. So it just doesn't stop. I mean, you
ultra
know,
sign up can get you in trouble.
Yep.
yep.
Get on there and you start scrolling. You find something you're like, "Yeah, this I can do this," and then you find another one. You're like, "Oh, 2 weeks, no problem."
Once the confidence starts to get built back up again, it's.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. How long was your military career?
I did 4 years in the Marines and then 3 years in the Army.
Okay.
And you went into the Marines first. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah. So I went in the Marines. I had a 6 year gap. So um so I went in the Marine Corps. I got out, and then I was actually doing something to market personal training services. Also, like I purposely blew up to like about 240 pounds, and then I dumped like about 70 pounds within 3 months just to kind of show that it could be done. And I
Mm,
was I was making like workout videos on YouTube along with it, and I was doing like themes, so like I did an Easter Bunny themed workout, and I did like a bunch of stuff like that. One of them I had like kind of like a military themed workout, so I put my old uniform on, I threw the face paint on, and then I'm in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and I just kind of like said to myself, I'm like, I want to go back, because I just wanted to do it again. So first I thought I'll be super hardcore. I'll go Navy SEAL route, and then I realized I wasn't that great of a swimmer. So I was like, all right, so I'll go back in the Marine Corps. So I had already finished my service obligation, so I did the 4 years after. So the Marine Corps is not very kind to prior service, and also like because well, I mean this is going back to like 2009 now. I mean I don't know what they're like now, but like back then though, like they'll take anybody off the street, but once you get promoted to the NCO ranks, it's kind of like your middle management, like you're not really needed.
hmm
So like yeah, they didn't have any openings for my MOS. And on top of that, though, they were like, all right, well, we could put you on active reserve duty and then filter you back into active duty. But then they also changed their tattoo policy. And the messed up thing is, though, is that these sleeves, I got them while I was still in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
But being that I got out of my 4 years after in 2007, and now it's 2009 where I have to get reinserted back in, I'm no longer grandfathered in. So I'd have to get a bunch of waivers and everything. So I put in for the waivers and I got denied. So then I go to the Army. I'm like, all right, well, why don't I do Army Special Forces? So I made it about 2 years into the course, and I wasn't really that great of a navigator. It's always been like an issue for me. So I ended up just after I got out of the course, I finished up my time with the 82nd Airborne, and then
That's pretty good stuff right there. Okay, the next question is, what is the hardest Spartan you've done?
I would say Kaprun in Austria. I mean, they don't have an ultra distance on it though, but that's the one that I was telling you about, where there's 2 climbs and there's like 7,000 feet of gain. So like the first 5 miles go directly to the top. Then you come back down, and then you have a second climb all the way to the top, and that peaks even higher. And then they actually have a cowbell that you ring at the top of the climb before you come back down. And yeah, that one was a pretty brutal one. And then
That's awesome.
the hardest
Did
one
you know that?
what's that?
Did you know that before you had went out there?
I had heard things about it. I mean, I've done like the races over in Europe are a little different because Europe has the Alps.
Yeah.
The Alps are are like a whole different world than the U.S. mountains. But the hardest U.S. race, I would say the hardest U.S. race is Killington though, and then Killington and Big Bear are pretty close. I mean, last year Big Bear had a hard one because half the course was shut down due to snow, so the Beast course ended up being 2 laps around the Super. And they put it on the worst part of the mountain. So I think like just for the Beast alone, it was like a 50% drop rate or something like that.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Well, because also too, like a lot of that has to do with like mindset. Because like a lot of those people weren't like ultra guys either. So like your guys that run like the 50K version of Spartan race, because the ultra is 2 laps around the Beast plus a short little extension to make it a 50K. So the people that sign up for the ultra are fully aware that they're doing 2 laps. So there's a different mentality going into it though, because like you're more of an extreme athlete anyway. So like there's a lot less people that would. I mean, unless Killington's got I think 1 year there was like an 8% finish, but like with Big Bear, they had the Beast as 2 laps. So a lot of your people that would normally just sign up for the Beast and not the Ultra, the fact that they had to face that mountain again, they just tapped out. Because most of your DNFs were at transition, because they just didn't want to go back out and do another lap because they already knew what they were going to get exposed to. So
yeah.
Yeah, that race sounds brutal.
Yeah, where's that one at?
Big Bear's in California.
Okay, and
That
the other one?
I think Big Bear's also at altitude too. Because Killington's not really altitude; it's just a steep mountain. I think it tops out at like 4,000 feet or something like that. Yeah, so I mean, you might start to get some of the altitude effects, but nothing like you would like on the West Coast.
Someone needs to do a last man standing race there.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Last man standing right up the mountain, right back down.
Because Killington's a pretty steep mountain though. Like it's a rough one.
Where's that one at?
It's Vermont. It's in the Green Mountains.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a specific American flag that you use, like a brand?
Well, I had a nylon one. I swapped it out after number 500, but it's still the same brand. I don't know the brand name off the top of my head. It's just a nylon flag. Because I started out with the poly cotton ones, and believe it or not, I ripped one during a 5K of all things. Ran a little too close to a rose bush in a neighborhood, and it just like tore it.
Oh wow!
But yeah, the first like 20 or so races I did with a poly cotton one, and then I switched over to the nylon, and the nylon's like almost indestructible. So
yeah.
But
Okay. Have you done other OCR races other than the Spartans?
yeah, I've done. I did a lot of the other ones like when I first started. I mean, the main reason I do like Spartan a lot though is because like these brands have like season passes and stuff. So like if you're gonna do like I don't know 50 Spartan races, you pay like one flat fee, and then like once you have the season pass, it waives the entry fee. You still have to pay the insurance fee, which is like $14. But outside of that though, like yeah, it's like 800 for the entire year usually. Actually, I don't know what it is now. But last year they came out with an Unbreakable Pass. So the Unbreakable Pass covers everything that Spartan owns because Spartan bought Tough Mudder. They also bought like OCR World Championship. They Peak Races is the same company as Spartan. So like the Death Race, the Bloodroot Ultra, like the Snow Devil, the Snowshoe Race. So like that pass covers all of it.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I mean that's the main reason I do like so many Spartans and like Tough Mudders and stuff is because it's all under the same umbrella. Last year I did a couple of Savage races, but Savage race isn't covered. And then when I first started in 2013, I didn't have like a season pass or anything. I just Googled a bunch of like a bunch of challenges. So like I did like Rebel Race, I did like Rock Solid Mud Run, Hardcore Mud Run. I'm trying to think of some others. But yeah, I did a lot of a huge variety of stuff when I first started, and then like around 2014 is when I pretty much like flipped over to Spartan, and then I had a couple of years though too. Like 2017 was the year I did mostly like Tough Mudders. So but it's just whatever season pass I have.
Gotcha.
I mean, when you're running that much, if you can do a season pass, man, that helps because you're still paying for hotels and everything else.
Well, it's like $800 for like the entire year versus over $200 per race. So like on like 4 weekends, you pretty much pay it off.
Yeah, I mean, some of these 100-milers now, they're $500 for one race.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What has been your most memorable event?
Probably the Mogollon Monster with that shooting I was telling you about, like having the bullets like ricochet. But there's been a lot of memorable 100-milers. But the Mogollon Monster in general is a cool race. It's in Arizona. It goes through like 3 different ecosystems. So like 1 minute you're in the woods, next minute you're in the mountains, next minute you're in the desert, and then it finishes up in the town. So like it's a pretty good one. The weather's a little unpredictable too. But yeah, that one's in Arizona. There's been a couple of them that were like pretty memorable. The Moose 100 was really good, but I mean that's the one I DNF'd when I got lost. But like that one's a brutal race. Like there was a section of it where you're literally crawling on your hands and knees to get up the mountain. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Yeah, I mean there's been a few of them. The Hellbender was a good race. I liked Hellbender. It's more like it's got like a cloverleaf style format. So like you hit the same aid, the entire you see different scenery the entire route, but you're hitting the same aid stations because it's like cloverleafing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that one's pretty good. Yeah, the Lone Star 100, I like that one. I don't know if they're still doing that one or not, but that was a good trail running over Texas or trail racing over. They're the ones that do that one.
I think somebody just did that one, didn't they? Pretty sure I just saw somebody.
Well, because I know they all. That's part of like the Franklin 200s or whatever.
Yeah, it looks like the last time they had it was in 2020.
Maybe it's the Outlaw 100. Maybe Walt posted the Outlaw.
Yeah, I haven't done that one. But yeah, there's been the Miami 100 was a cool one too. The one where they gave us the directions and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that one. The whole course is open. Like you could run inside stores and grab stuff if you want. Like it's a good one.
Kind of like a Ball State.
Yeah. And Keys 100's like that too. Like you can run into stores and stuff. Because there's no way to cut the course on the Keys 100. It's just a straight shot down Highway 1.
Yeah.
With no hills.
Yeah.
Didn't send you that one.
Well, luckily for me, I got the 7 Mile Bridge after dark. Because 7 Mile Bridge is the one that kills everybody because it's just like in the sunlight and, But if you time it right so that you get it after dark, it's not that bad. You just have to deal with drunk drivers.
Oh, yeah. We had a friend do that race, last year?
Last year, the year before. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all the questions I have.
That's all the questions
I have.
Billy, do you have any questions for us?
Nothing that I could think of.
Well, man, thank you so much for being on here. And if you don't care when we end the podcast here in a minute, just stay on. We'll talk
yeah. No, thank you for having me on. Like I love doing these things. So.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your story. We appreciate the things you've done.
Oh yeah, man.
And the fundraisers you've done. that in 2016, doing that with the,
Yeah.
your circle that you come up with in 20 minutes and just kind of rolled with it. I mean, that's cool. I mean, that's the stuff that people are never going to forget. And, like that's the experience you're getting to take away. Man, I'm just super impressed by the stuff that you came up with and that you're doing. I can't wait to see what you do when you get your hip fixed, man. We'll be following along. We'll be back on here and get.
I'll definitely come up with something.
Yeah.
But right now I'm on that ruck streak with the bad hips, so I just finished up day 45 in a row today.
Well, remember when you hit 600, like you're gonna have to do like 2 flags in that race or something.
Yeah.
It's got to be memorable.
Well, 600 is a checkpoint. Ultimately, I want to get to 1,000.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So no, it's not. 600 is just another 100 marker. It's not the ending point.
Well, let's be honest. It's probably never going to end.
No,
it's not. As long as I can put one foot in front of the other, it's not going to end.
Yeah.
I already know that.
Well, Billy, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you for having me on.